Okay, so we are doing day 3. We're combining our warm-up and our notes together. So the goal for today is to use dimensional analysis to convert and compare complex rates and measures using 2 or more conversion ratios. So yesterday, towards the end on the back sheet of your paper, we were using 2 conversion factors, and the same thing when you were doing your comparisons. So now we're going to use 2 or more. We're going to set up the problems the same way. So it says, how many millimeters are there in 1 mile? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So we want to know how many millimeters are there in 1 mile. So in 1 mile, we want to know how many millimeters. That's kind of our question. So it says this one will take at least 3 ratios, but you can do it with ease with dimensional analysis. So one thing that I encourage you to do when you're having these harder problems is let's map it out before we do any of the math. So let's just use so if we go to miles, and millimeters are really small. So what would we go to? What's smaller than a mile? Or how could we get over to the metric unit? Okay, there's going to be more than one option. What do you guys think? James?
Well, I know that there's millimeters that go evenly into inches and centimeters.
Okay, so
we have to go evenly into feet.
Okay, so we could go from miles. What could we go to next then? What's smaller than a mile?
Probably.
You just kind of said it. Feet. Okay, so let's go from miles to feet. And then, James, you said that you know that there's a relationship between, how do we get to the metric? You said centimeters and what?
Inches.
Inches. So that's the one that I always remember. Okay, so we're going to go from feet. Then we're going to go to inches. It's even smaller. Then we're going to cross over here into centimeters. And then from centimeters, we can stay in that metric unit and we can go to millimeters. So do you guys see our path? Miles to feet, feet to inches, inches to centimeters, centimeters to millimeters. Now, I'm going to say one other thing because notice here, we could have switched over to the metric unit right away. We could have went from miles to kilometers. So I'm going to just write this one out too, kind of as an alternative. So we could have went from miles to kilometers, kilometers to meters, meters to centimeters, and centimeters to millimeters. It doesn't matter. Notice they're the same number of conversions. It doesn't matter. Your answer might be off or different from just a couple decimals or something like that. But the big deal is that for whatever reason, I always remember the inches to centimeters conversion. I don't always remember the miles to kilometers version. But like I said, it doesn't matter which one you go with. Question?
Probably how I would do it is, you know how there's 20 millimeters in an inch?
Nope, there's not 20. You've got to use a more exact thing.
So there's 10 in a centimeter, right?
Oh, 10 millimeters in a centimeter, yep.
Yep. So then there's 2 centimeters in an inch.
A little bit more. Yeah, so on these, you do have to use your exact conversions, okay? Okay, so we're gonna start this problem. And we're gonna start with 1 mile. Remember, if it's just one thing, you can put it over 1 to make it look like a fraction. There, in 1 mile, mile goes on the bottom, there are 5,280 feet. So miles cancels. Then I'm going to go from feet to inches. So in 1 foot, there are 12 inches. So feet cancel. Then in 1 inch, there are actually 2.54 centimeters. And then our last one, in 1 centimeter, there are actually 10 millimeters. And then once you're here, you can just multiply, multiply, and divide. So you're going to get a very large number because a millimeter is a lot smaller than a mile. 5280 times 12 times 2.54 times 10. And I get 1609344. Okay, and then it's just over 1. So your final answer is 1,609,344 millimeters. Okay, so the next type of problem that you have is, this was just 1 unit, so it was 1 mile. This is a rate, and this is 3 miles per minute, so I have 3 miles per 1 minute, and I want to get it to inches per second. So we're going from miles per minute to inches per second. So you guys are going to have to go from miles to inches. So how do we go from miles to inches? What's smaller than a mile? Feet. And then what's smaller than a foot? Inch. So there we go. Minutes to seconds, what are we going to do? That's it. So yeah, just minutes to seconds. So just so you guys kind of know your path is all that I encourage you to do. Okay, so the first one, I start with the one on the top. So I'm going to go to feet to inches first. So in 1 mile, there are 5,280 feet. Miles goes in the bottom so that it cancels. Then I'm going to go from feet to inches. So in 1 foot, there are 12 inches. You want the feet to cancel. So now you're to inches, and inches is where we want to get. So now I switch my gears and I go to the bottom, and I want to go from minutes to seconds. So minutes has to go on the top. So I know that in 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. Minutes cancel. What's left over? You have inches and seconds, which is what you would like. So on the top, 3 times 5,280 times 12. And I get 190080. 1 times 1 times 1 times 60 on the bottom. And I divide the 2, and I get 3168. So 3,168. And our label is what's left over, inches per second. So that's how you convert a rate to another rate. Okay, let's do one from your worksheet. How about you guys pick? B through I, doesn't matter which one. B, okay. So like I said, I kind of like to map the direction I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna go from tons to grams. And obviously you've got your conversion factors up here. In my mind, I know that a gram is smaller than a ton. So I'm gonna look, so if I look up here, I have tons and pounds. And then do I have a pounds and grams relationship at all? Or do I have a pounds and, what do you guys see? Pounds and ounces, and then ounces and grams. Do you see that? Okay, so I'm going to map out my method here. So I would go from tons, and then I'm going to go to pounds, and then I'm going to go to ounces, and then I'm going to go to grams. Now, the other way you could have done this is you could have went from tons to pounds to kilograms to grams. It's the same thing. The only thing they didn't tell you that there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram, but some people just know that. So if I start here and I'm going to do tons and pounds, I know that in 1 ton there are 2,000 pounds. So tons cancel. Now I'm going to go from pounds to ounces. In 1 pound, there are 16 ounces. And then my last step is from ounces to grams. And if you look up here, in 1 ounce, there is 28.35 grams. Bless you. And it looks like we just have ones on the bottom. So you just multiply across the top. So 4 times 2,000 times 16 times 28.35. And fairly large number here. 3628800. So our answer would be 3,628,800 or just 800 grams.
Can we do one of the fraction ones too on the bottom?
Okay. A rate one, you mean?
Yeah, like
Sure. Which one?
I don't know. We should do number C.
They were asking to do a rate one. So the first A through D are not rates. How about we'll do H? Okay. So we want to go ounces to kilograms. So what would be our path if we want to go ounces to kilograms? What do you guys think? Yeah, I like that. So we're going to do, on the top, we're going to do ounces, and then we're going to go to pounds, and then we're going to go to kilograms. Make sure you have all those relationships, and I can look at the top and I see that. And then we're going to go to hours to weeks. So what's bigger than an hour but smaller than a week? Hours, days, weeks. So you can kind of see our path on the top and our path on the bottom. So the first one I need to know is ounces to pounds. So there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. Ounces goes on the bottom because I needed to cancel. Then my next one is pounds to kilograms. And if you look at the top, I know that there are 2.2 pounds in 1 kilogram. And the kilograms is where I want to end. So I have finished with my top conversions. Now I'm going to do the bottom conversions. So I have to go from hours to days. How many hours in a day? Yep, there are 24 hours in 1 day. And then days to weeks. How many days in a week? 7 days in 1 week. So hours and hours canceled, days and days canceled. Now you can do the math. Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and divide.